frozen.
No, live video is starting.
Oh. Has it begun?
Yeah, now it has.
Okay. No, it's still good morning, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is still morning.
Good morning in Australia, and for the rest of you, whatever it is.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
It could even be night for some people.
Yeah, or good night, or whatever. We've got two things we're going to talk about today. I've got to start by explaining over the last month and a half, I've been remiss in not writing an article, but we've had so much drama with the books and quite a few other things. We just had to put it off, and I've had a spare day and a half, and I've knocked up a smaller article, less than 3,000 words, for those of you that don't normally read this stuff. And I also want to talk about the book that Leah, myself and Evan are involved in, called Interview with an Alien, but we'll begin with the article first. It's called 1959 and in New Jersey, and what it's about is in 1959 a series of rocks were stolen from a couple of sacred places, and then they stayed with people for quite some time. A person then sold two of them and then fell sick virtually straight away and died soon after, and the doctors don't know why. They couldn't find a thing wrong with him. We know what happened. They sold two of the rocks, and the other rocks made sure that that was the end of that story. The lady involved with the residual aftermath of that, which was her father that died, she then sort of made contact with the rocks, and the rocks became quite adamant that they come down with us. Now, what's interesting about these rocks is they cross two barriers, insofar as the first two rocks I'm going to show you very quickly are from the ancient Lemurian Atlantean technology that was in Australia. This first rock I'm holding up now is an incredible piece of work. It's got an edge that runs all the way around it that's perfectly marked, or perfectly made rather, but has never been marked and never been used. Now only Trudy Roberts claims this, and I'm going to take a lot of notice from what she's got to say because she's an elder of some definite standing and knowledge. She claims this was used in levitation ceremonies. I can tell you that the pecking on the side there is where the hand goes, so you make contact with the rock inside. And I can also tell you this is not part of a stick, stone, bone technology. That's very important. We wrote about that rock. The second rock we wrote about comes from that same ancient technology. I don't know how you can see this. I'll try my best to hold it up. There's one side here and then a second side. This side here has 7 star markers in it. Oh, that's a bit better like that. It's got 7 stars and they're all co-joined, and if you look very carefully you'll find that each of those markings is a spiral. Now what's fascinating, on the back there's 9. Now what's fascinating about this is that the lines are the same depth, the same width and the same spacing all the way through. Nothing varies. It is consistently perfect masonry. No kinks, nothing. Now, I do know that original people used obsidian blades and sharpened edges to cut other rocks, but I do not believe it's possible to put together something like that. I don't know how well you can see it. Well, that's probably the best angle. And you'll find there's spirals. They're not even circles. You cannot get that consistency of cut, I believe, with a hand tool. And by the way, we have the hand tool used in making some of these rocks, and I can show you exactly what it looks like. These two both belong to this earlier time, which when Australia was part of Lemuria, and the world was living in an earlier civilization where I believe the technology was more advanced than today. What's also interesting about that rock is look at the thickness of it. This is not natural, and if you look very carefully you'll see a residual sort of greyish black on some parts of that. That's the coat of silicon and grass tree resin that we used on the earlier rocks. The ancient ones come from a higher technology, and it was laid on top. This would have been a stunning piece of work when that coat was in really strong, and all the lines around there would have acted as a marked contrast. It would have been a deadly piece of work. Okay, then we go to another set. Now this one also has the coating, but if you look very carefully on this one, you'll see that the production of the lines in the circles is nowhere near as effective. The lines up the top are rougher, they've slipped when it's been cut, and this particular one, we believe, the last one was an as on top story because the seven stars here were the seven sisters of Pleiades. This one has a large circle and a small one, and it doesn't have emu tracks like the last one, but U-shapes which represent men and women, and they're clustered around this smaller circle down the bottom. My take is that's a Bora ring, that's the public part of it, that's the private part underneath. And in this one and the others, this was also found, this thing here, and it's a sharp rock. And can you notice it's got the coat again, just like this. So these ones still maintain the coat, but not the cutting technique involved. They don't have the same tool. This is a blade, laser, or something much higher up the pecking order. This one here and the other ones I'm going to show you, this was found with them. These were all stolen in 1959. The next one, which is also part of the technology of today, you'll see the lines on this are not straight, and in the middle we've got a circle, not a spiral. Now it is possible with this one here you could do that one. The next one I'm going to show you is fascinating because of all the rocks we've got, this is the one that looks the least, how can I put it, sophisticated and nuanced. But what's interesting is it's got a grey coat, but then these lines are red, a brownish sort of red. Whether ochre was applied inside there or whether that's the coat underneath, I don't know. But again, if you look at the others compared to the first two where it's so precise and so geometric, although the shape of this particular object is very geometric, extremely so. Now here's the deal with this. The last three I showed you don't belong with us, and what we're doing at the moment and in the process is repatriating it. This was found at a sacred site which I'm not prepared to reveal because we're sorting this out ourselves, but we are in contact with elders at the moment, and we are in contact with the right people, not organisations, not universities, not lands councils, but I want those rocks to go back to the sacred site so the elders can use them in ceremony. Now I'm damn sure one of them is an so below story. This with 9 constellations on one side and 7 on the other, that's the Pleiades, and we suspect we know the other constellation, but we're not prepared to say that because we're not sure yet. This is an as on top piece of work. The other 3 I've shown you are so below, they're down below. And they are going back onto country with the elders. These other ones, well, they're a different story and they're made with different techniques. They will spend some time. One of those, after a while, when we're finished with it, this one, when all the ceremonies are finished, this will go back, but I've got to make the same point. They've got to understand they know no ceremony that goes with this. They're not aware of any ceremony because they don't know of them. This comes from the time before 12,000 years, before Atlantis blew up and Lemuria was submerged. And it is technology that links in with that. Now the article is about those rocks, but it's also about New Jersey. And I can't hold up the New Jersey rock because, and by the way, armchair critics, and we have thousands of them at the moment. This article I've written, for those of us that don't want to read the first part, it is 10 steps that show you why the agreement we made with Kano when he was alive, when he suggested to us that the rocks of the higher and ancient technology should be stored on Ramangeri country, to which myself and Ros Mulder, the one who bought a lot of these rocks, we both agreed that should happen. There are 10 steps we set out to explain why that is what takes place, as opposed to the people who've never seen the rocks, never been to the rocks, and never read the articles who claim we've got to put them back on country. And as we start, one of the points we make it very clear, we have around about 8 rocks where we know where they came from. The other 250 odd, we have no idea. So it's very hard to put something back on country when you don't know where it came from. And more to the point, Every one of these rocks have different markings. There's nothing there that's regional that you can identify and say, oh, that's Paconia. Oh, that's X-ray. That's Wandjina. That's Lightning Brothers. There's nothing like that. All of these rocks are different. And this goes back to a time, and Kano called it the Southern Law Confederation, when there were 3 confederations in Australia, and all of these things, be it rocks, resources and people, wandered within each confederation. And we've only ever done our archaeology in the Southern Law Confederation. We do not work outside that area because we're not allowed to. Kano gave me permission to work within that area, but not outside because it's not his business, nor is it mine. If we get rocks like that, we invariably put them back, and we have put back quite a few. That's been witnessed on many occasions because number 1, they come from the wrong place, or number 2, like with these ones, they're not the technology that's what we're interested in, and more to the point, they belong to the custodians of today. The custodians of the stick, stone and bone technology. They are the ones who are getting those rocks, and then they will do the ceremonies, not us. So that's the first part of the presentation, what we're talking about today. The second part is the bizarre part of this story. For the people who are aware of what we said last time round, we explained to you how a publishing company contacted us and said they changed their paper and they could no longer record the photographs, the drawings that Leah did of different aliens she's been in contact with. They told us straight out they couldn't do it, didn't they, Evan?
Yeah, after a lot of fluffing around, backwards and forwards.
Years and years, months and months and months, they finally said to us, after we had paid them for 3 orders, didn't we?
Yeah.
Paid for 3 orders
then they cancelled the orders.
They cancelled the orders.
Then blamed us because they cancelled them.
They blamed us and said, we told you we can't do the photographs on there, we can't put it there.
Well, I'm like, that's wonderful, but you've got all of our money and you've not returned it.
So they did, well, basically what happened was they then returned it. But what was weird in this story was they returned all the money that we'd paid, because I told them we're going to
the
ombudsman the next day because it had gone on for so long. They wrote back and blamed us and told us, we told you we use inferior paper, didn't they? Mm-hmm. That was their excuse. We now use cheaper, inferior paper and we can't do colour. And we thought to ourselves...
Well, okay, so you're one of the biggest book distributors in the world and a printery. You can't do colour. Okay, so let's look at the books out there
that have colour.
Okay. Cooking, travel books,
nature books,
books about animals, children's books.
All colour.
They're always illustrated.
Would a child accept black and white? No, but according to this publishing group, they would. So we started chasing up other publishers because we thought these guys were incompetent. Then lo and behold, our smallest order of 10 books came magically, like this one here, and in it, and I'll show you some of the pictures now, in it, the picture of Mesref and the female entity, alien, were there, plus a whole group of others all the way along. If you see how much of that is coloured, you'll see all of those pictures were there. And then we found, they never told us, did they?
No.
They went into our credit, whatever we put our money, and took all the money back that they gave us, and we still didn't know any of it. So we thought we were dealing with someone that was duplicitous in our shadow banning and all the letters I've got from the government threatening to put me in jail, our ASIO agent, the whole thing. We thought it was part of that, didn't we?
It's hard not to when you've got it all happening.
Yeah, because we'd had months of lies beforehand and, are we going to do this? And I think I told you about one stage they printed it up where only half the page had print and the other half was blank. We just assumed this was deliberate, but we were wrong. It is sheer, utter incompetence of a level we've never seen before. It wasn't their fault. They weren't being duplicitous. They were just being pathetic and basically had no idea what they were doing.
So, since then, another order of books have made it up here.
Yes.
We've then been able to get
most
I think
of
we're
the
down
back
to
orders.
I think we're down to about 10. We're almost down to single figures
And
now.
we still have 2 other boxes floating somewhere in the ether at the moment that we've paid for, that they refunded, and then they took the money out for. Didn't tell us any of this. And I got to make the point, there is a slight, I've got to be honest about this, there is a slight difference in the quality, not much, a little bit of a quality on the paper, but it's still quite okay. Now what that has also done is, and we've got to make this point clear at the moment, that was an increase because they did this, wasn't it, Evan?
Yes.
They raised the price by another $5, and we will have to do that. But for the people who made the original orders, we will honour our commitment to pay them at the lower price. But I have to make the point that as it stands now, for those books, we're basically not even making $10 out of it. And that's not really fair. So the books that follow, after this one, we fill the back orders, we are going to have to lift our price for $5 because they did. Otherwise, basically, when you add the postage and everything to there, honestly, the profit we make as it is now is single figures. And it's got to go into the teens. That's what we thought. Come on, it's got to go something near that because there's three of us involved in this. So primarily, I want to make that point. So if you feel like we're ripping you off, we're not. It's what I find amazing is the first time they did this, they charged a lower price. Then when they got lower quality paper and told us they couldn't do it, they added $5 to the price for the crappier paper. What can we do? We got nothing we can do, so we're stuck with it. But I wanted to explain to you, we're not ripping anyone off. What we're doing is we're going to honour our commitment with all the people who've made an order, and we've got, most of you will have got your order, and the ones that haven't, we will be getting a hold of that box in the next couple of days, won't we?
Yep.
And we'll be sending out the last group, and with every person, yes, Evan's providing links to what on this?
Oh, yeah. So on the side, I've put links up for Booktopia, Amazon,
yeah,
and also our website.
Yeah.
So
now,
what I would suggest if you live overseas is
don't go through us. It's going to cost us $25 postage.
to send it to you. So
yeah,
what I suggest is Booktopia or Amazon. Now, if you're Australian, just get it through our website.
You can get it through us through our website, but we've got to make the point. How much do they charge for their postage?
Who's that?
Amazon and that might.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that
they'll be cheaper than us. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah.
What happens is you'll probably save $5 in Australia getting it through Booktopia or whatever the other one is, Amazon, however it happens, because we've got to charge normal postage rates. But what you do get in return for that is if you buy it through us, I am writing out a personalised commentary, and it's fairly large. It's about 50 to 70 to 80 words on each book, and none of the same about the book and why it is so important. You get that plus our signatures in it for the extra $5 in postage. And if you think that's worth it, then great. It is worth it for us because we make a greater profit from selling the books through us than going through Booktopia and Amazon. So it's entirely up to you. If you want to save $5, go through Amazon. If you want to present $5 more but get a personally signed book, because we can't personally sign the Amazon ones, can we?
No, we can't.
And also a large commentary that fills up one of the front pages there, and it's handwritten, and none of the same. I can guarantee you that. I've done about 35, 40 of them. They're not the same, are they?
No, they're definitely
Everyone's different.
You should have seen it here. It was like an assembly line.
Oh, yeah. My wife and Evan were packing them, and I was writing out a news comment.
You've seen the look on the face of the people in the post office when I walked in with my massive bags. I'm like, I'm sorry. 45 minutes.
Anyway, the point is, the book is out, and I'm going to make the point that Mary Robble has made this point too, because she's done a review, and we post that in. We also provide that for the people who buy from us.
Yeah, you get a copy of that.
A one-page copy of Mary Robble's review, and most people in Australia would know that she is probably the authority on UFOs, aliens in Australia, always agreed to be and should be. She made a comment and basically said everyone should buy this book. Okay? Now what I want to close with, I've read this before, but I want to make this point. I know it sounds bizarre to make the claim we're making, but what I'm going to say to you is, if you go to the 10 transcripts where we've asked about 130 odd questions of Mesref, don't take our word for it. Read the commentary and then ask yourself whether any human on this planet could make those comments. And the answer is no. And then if you want to go further, work out whether either myself or Leah could have made up these comments. And if you think we did, thank you. because that means I've got an IQ of 728. And so's Leah. If you think we're that smart, I appreciate that.
It's a nice compliment.
It's a lovely compliment. But let me explain to you how we did this was, I would write the questions out to Leah. She would then get in contact with Mesrith, and in the book she explains in the front how that happens and how it all came about. Then I talk about how I tested her time after time after time to find out if this is real. That's all in there. And then what happened is I didn't know the answer until she actually read it out to me. And I can tell you, it was horrific for me simply because most of the stuff was written was just way outside my pay scale. And often I just sat there thinking, what in God's name am I going to say?
Yeah.
Anything I say will make this sound rubbish when it's so brilliant. Whatever comes after, it's going to sound awful. Now, I'm going to make the point. In the book, in the transcripts, it's basically a slightly abridged, right, because we had a major problem with translation, a slightly abridged commentary of what Leah and I said to his comments. If need be, forget what we said. It's not that important, and sometimes it's not that good. But what he said, you could read again and again and again. And if you were to read everything that he had written, seriously, if you took it on board, you would be a different person because of it. It is a life-changing experience, and that's probably why Mary said that everybody should get a copy of this book. And I want to finish with what I wrote on the back here before we close up. And it says this is what I wrote on the back cover, rather than put a review. I said, if I was to offer the impossible, to be able to speak to the creator of everything and ask anything you want, surely only a fool would decline. But what if the next in line was willing and able to tell you everything? Would you be agreeable to have a series of conversations? And that's what you're doing. You have a series of conversations, and you'll be making your own comments as you go along, and you'll be joining in with us as we dance through the dark together. But the most important part is I believe this book is not like any other book ever written. I mean, you've got a roundabout, and I'll hold it up again, that whole section there, all of that, are different aliens Leah has either dealt with or been indirectly in contact with. And as I said before, of all these aliens, this one, which is the female, and what she said there is Sasler is an eternal being that sits behind every diplomatic and covert mission involving Earth. If Mesrith were a hand, she is the mind. And there's the hand. Both of these beings are eternal, and both of them we've confused and called angels. Well, guess what? The angels are now talking, and they're giving you advice now. And why are they doing it now? Because of the ceremony that took place 3 years ago and the change that began at the last solstice about 4 or 5 days ago. That is why this book is so important. It's like a handbook, a manual for the change and what you are supposed to be if you're going to be part of that change. So we are now in a situation now where we can take orders, because not only can we cover the back orders, I think we've got room for about another 30, haven't we? So we can now take orders. For quite some time people have been saying, I'd like to get a book but I can't. Well, you can now. So if you haven't ordered one, if you're ever going to buy a book, seriously, if I didn't have this book, I'd buy it. I'd read it, because I know what's in there is priceless. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a new article up, because now we've got over all this drama. I can get focused on writing a few articles again. We haven't done it for a while.
And I can get back to finishing the book about Slater.
Oh, that's right.
And the other book.
The book about Slater, Evan, you're about 25 pages.
26 pages away from finishing.
From finishing that book.
And indexed and all of that stuff.
And then we've got to go through our publisher again. But most of the photos we got this time are black and white, aren't they?
Most of them.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
And theoretically, we're hoping, I mean, to begin with, at one stage, it could get done up in about a week and a half.
Oh, it was really good at one point.
One stage, before they made major changes to staff and resourcing, and that's what caused our drama. So, ladies and gentlemen, a new article about some amazing rocks. They certainly are that. And then the book that's now come out, and I was going to keep this under 20 minutes, Evan.
Yep. Also, we will restart the conferences in February.
In February, yeah.
Just
and they will be, and I made this point before. If you want to be a subscriber, you can watch all of them at any time you want.
And everything that we've done before.
And everything we've done before. But if you want to watch it on the day, you can have it free. Past that day, you've got to pay for it. But if you want to watch it on the day, you can have it free. Because we're hoping now, because this book is out and Slater will be following soon, both Leah and Evan can make enough money to live rather than be impoverished. Like an Ethiopian farmer.
Well, yeah, week to week, living is,
so
wow.
We think we can get that from the books now, so we don't need to actually chase the money on a monthly basis, and that's why we're putting it out for free. Okay, that's enough for now, because I said I'll be under 20 minutes and it's 25. So Evan, do you want to finish this now?
Yep.
Okay, until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Evan's trying to turn it off.